Uncharted is an iconic franchise, a game that's firmly cemented to a whole family of consoles and a series that helped shape a studio's development and storytelling. And I've never played a single one. I never had a PS3 growing up. The thing was ugly as sin and the Xbox 360 was king. So because of all that, I never picked up Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and not being one to jump into a series at the midpoint, I never played any of the others either. God, that was mumbly. I never played any of the others either. I've always heard that most of them are fantastic games, and I've always been encouraged to play them with people appealing to my love of Indiana Jones and over-the-top adventure games. But alas, Nathan Drake never graced my screen. That was until now. Finally, my list of shame will have one game knocked off it. But at what cost? Did I have fun? Do I think it's worth playing for anyone else who has never entered the franchise? Well, I guess you'll find out. I will note, however, while the game originally came out in 2007, I am playing the remastered 2015 version because, well, I don't completely hate myself. But the only thing that my friends and colleagues have shared is that the first Uncharted game is, by far, the roughest entry in the franchise.
Whoa!
The first thing I noticed may be a bit of a strange one, but why does the menu sound like someone flossing their teeth with a harp string? It's so abrasive. Why do I have to lose 10% of my hearing every time I want to pause the game or check out some of the bonus features? But to the actual game. Uncharted does this weird thing where it feels like you've been dropped into the middle of a story that is also, unfortunately, quite thin.
What is it? Come on, hold it up.
No way. Deal was for a coffin. That's it.
We get but the briefest surface level of hint of what the hell is going on in the opening cutscene. Drake's ancestor's empty coffin with a journal of treasure maps and mysterious hints. Documentary filmmaker Alina trying to get a story out of it. There's a shootout against pirates while you're sporting a wetsuit. And Sully rolls up with a seaplane. Now when things calm down in the game and Sully is properly introduced, the story does expand into something more tangible, into a lost hunt for El Dorado and new discoveries about the lost city of gold. But that's pretty much it. For the first hour or so of the game, there isn't really much story or character development or much of anything to really latch onto narrative-wise. No word of a lie, I learned more about Sully's gross sexual escapades in the first 20 minutes of the game than I did about treasure exploration or Nathan's motives or background.
All right, Nate, just pretend for a minute that I don't really care about any of that stuff and cut to the chase, would you?
Man only interested in the climax. He must be a real hit with the ladies.
Never had any complaints.
And that's a shame, because the characters do grow on you across the game, but there's not enough to latch onto or make you bond with the characters until you're hours in. Seriously, I tried to count. There were at least 3 nods to Sully shagging.
Yeah, you weren't too old for that little barmaid in Lima, were you?
Ha! Well, that was different. Although I must admit, equally as strenuous.
And one story about him scamming Pablo Escobar before one of the most forgettable villains in video games history shoots the old boy in the chest.
Now, whoa. Come on, Roman. He's got nothing to do... Sully!
I know he's a big fan favourite across the franchise now, and he does make a comeback later in the game, but boy, in the early hours of the game, this guy, loved by fans across the series, comes across like the kind of bloke who posts boomer Facebook memes about hating his wife. Uncharted at least broke the mold for the use of colour palettes for games of this generation, the cliche being that so many of the titles were shades of grey and brown. At least Uncharted offered a smattering of green, and on average it is way more vibrant than anything that came out a year or two before Drake's debut. To give credit where credit is due as well, the graphics and style really do hold up in 2022. Again, it might be the HD version, but this is the way anyone is likely to play it these days, and for the most part, still looks pretty damn good. There are also some impressive and pretty awe-inspiring locations, like the German U-boat running around in the middle of the jungle, or some of the old ruins of colonial outposts later in the game. And most of them are really fun to traverse and explore, and will provide the odd, intriguing puzzle to balance out the action.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Ledges and holds aren't too obviously placed on obstacles in the world, which makes the little exploration you do in an admittedly very linear game feel all the more interesting. And while you may be stuck in quite the small levels, having to keep your eyes peeled and still search for a through line in the terrain remains satisfying. But oh boy, when this system falls, it falls hard. For the most part, traversal, jumping, climbing all feel great, but there are enough moments where it really collapses, that's definitely worth talking about. If you have any memories of playing early Assassin's Creed games and trying to point your character in the direction you want, only to see them jump towards nothing and crunch against the ground, then you'll know what I mean. Uncharted does the same thing. There are moments when you can be certain you're pointing Drake in the right direction, but the game will pull you in some weird angle or just decide, hey, you don't land this jump. More than jumping, hopping, climbing, or exploring though, the thing you'll be doing most is shooting. I think the nicest thing I could say about it is that it's fine, serviceable, just about gets the job done. I wasn't expecting anything epic or too intense, as this is more of an adventure title with third-person cover-based shooting than it is a cover shooter. But a little more focus on it may have avoided some issues that I ended up having with the shooting. The weapons and shooting handled just fine. They feel like they may be a touch weak, but there are also weird things like the starting pistol doing more damage than the AK-47. I counted. 3 shots with your Makarov, 4 to 5 with your AK. It just makes the suite of guns feel a little unrealized. Other than a few exceptions like the Thunder of the Desert Eagle, the Dragon Sniper Dragonov, or shotguns knocking folk into the next postcode, the firearms feel largely forgettable throughout almost the entirety of the game. Unfortunately, as since there is limited ammunition available, I did find myself clumsily swapping weapons constantly as I ran out of rounds. Also, what the hell is with the amount of grenades that get thrown at Nathan Drake throughout this game? Did the bad guys make a bulk order from Costco or something? Because they throw them at you like they're trying to earn prizes at a fair. I thought I was under artillery fire.
You're dead!
Yo, is my guy using a gun? His Makarov as a zipline tool? What? It was around here where I started to learn the language of the game a bit more. There are moments where it tries to be a Hollywood blockbuster of a video game, one that isn't taking itself too seriously, one that wants to lean into the over-the-top action of big explosions, cheesy quips.
I know I'm not a big-time treasure hunter like you, but I doubt you're gonna find El Dorado in there.
And shotgun blasts throwing dudes feet from where they started. It's happy with it having corny villains, sometimes awkward banter between rivals.
Is that my deal? Die now, or help you, and die later. Oh, it's a tough call, but you know what? I'll take die now.
Leaning into movie tropes and leaning into a bit more of the Indiana Jones action romp adventure vibe. And the game really does do those moments very well indeed.
Oh, no, 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 no! Oh, crap!
When I was feeling these moments most acutely, I could see why this game has ended up being a movie. But Uncharted keeps countering every win with a stumble. For every big, dumb, fun jeep chase through the jungle, there's a bloody jet ski sequence.
This time, I drive.
Okay.
I now know that this part of the game is a bit of a meme among fans, and I won't beat around the bush. It f***ing sucks. Why on earth would you set the scene for a player to go fast? You know, the thing that jet skis are used for.
That's what I like to do. Just riding around on my jet ski.
And then build a level where you have to inch forward foot by foot, shooting grenades at bad guys that blend into the scenery like a solid bloody snake, and destroying or avoiding explosive barrels that will go boom if you so much breathe any of the surrounding atmosphere in which they exist. Sorry, I got heated. But this part of the game really got to me. Like some other elements of Uncharted, to me, it feels at odds with itself. It gives you the tools to go fast, but then makes you go slow. The game gives you tons of shooting, but makes the guns feel naff. It wants to tell an action-packed story, but takes half the game to make you care about the 3 characters that make up its narrative.
All right, you boys aren't gonna get all chummy and leave the girl behind again, are you?
Don't even think about it, Sully. She's got a mean right hook.
I'll keep that in mind.
And I'll jump ahead here because I didn't see the vampire zombie twist coming, which in one way is awesome because it's a twist in the story I really didn't expect, but in another way it's again at odds with the rest of Uncharted because fighting them is about as fun as chewing on tinfoil. But wait, there's more. As the story develops and you find yourself in an old German U-boat base, learning that these things, which are called descendants by the way, are in fact born of a plague from the El Dorado coffin. Again, another pretty cool story beat as the game dips its toes into fantasy and the supernatural in the same way Indiana Jones does. The thing is though, now you have to fight these bullet sponge enemies that can melee you to death in 2 hits in tight, close quarters corridors.
Sensational.
After that slog, the good side of Uncharted rears its head once again, as through the rest of the game you'll find yourself gunning through levels as mercenaries and descendants fight each other, and through the chaos you get to lean into the action and blast through combat in a much more satisfying and fluid way. And this is consistent all the way up to the final sections of the game. It's intense, it's satisfying, and it's where some of Uncharted's gameplay elements work best. We fight to the last area. We see the little story beats that have been drip fed to us across the 6 to 8 hours come together. We witness that forgettable British villain get his comeuppance as he's turned into a descendant, and have one more twist as he's betrayed by his mercenary right-hand man. And then the game gives you a wet fart of a final boss fight. Your enemies, numerous. Your ammo, sparse. Your cover, flimsy. The boss, invincible. His shots, lethal. The last fight is rubbish, and really a disappointing end to a game that I found was really finding some momentum and confidence during its last half. It might not have all been amazing, but it was a damn sight better than this. The gimmick is that you have to count his shotgun shots before leaning out of cover and returning fire, because you know nothing says action adventure like counting to 4. At last though, after caving the guy's dome in and chucking him and his cursed coffin into the ocean, I did get the characterful, charming end I wanted. Because while the characters were so hard to gel with at the start, the game does enough to make you connect with them. Those connections are just a bit too far and in between.
Quite a day.
Yeah, save the world, triumph over evil. Pretty typical.
Really?
But there are enough that my opinions of the characters did do a 180 across the game. Sully felt more like the dependable father figure. Elena felt more brave and determined, bonding with Drake, who was now much more lovable.
You still owe me one.
I'm good for it.
After seeing both broader character beats, as well as smaller, more charming and personable moments. Uncharted Drake's Fortune is an okay game. And I can appreciate it was a game made by a studio that had previously had no real experience with this kind of title. And I can also see why this game left an impression on players back in 2007. Uncharted gave me just enough to make me entertain the idea of keeping with the franchise. And I've had everyone telling me, oh Dave, 2 is way better than 1. So with that, I did play a couple of hours of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, and they're not wrong.
All right, I'm listening. Yeah.
You're not gonna like this.
Oh no. No, you're out of your mind.
Pretty much every issue I had with 1 is gone in 2. The story starts out much stronger, the characters immediately have more character about them, the gameplay and action is more engaging and satisfying, and it embraces the action movie style that created the best parts of Uncharted 1. Now, I'm excited to play the whole Uncharted franchise, and sitting back and writing this script after some of the wounds have healed, I can see the merits of Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Do I think it holds up today? No, probably not. Do I feel a little foolish for not exploring the franchise sooner? Maybe a bit. Now, would I recommend playing Uncharted 1 today? No. You can skip that one. Maybe watch a recap or just the first half of our Uncharted timeline or something. Now, I hope I wasn't too mean about everyone's favourite game here. I promise I am a convert, and I am very excited to see where the rest of the series takes me. But I'd love to know your thoughts. What do you think of the game, either when it first came out or if you've revisited it recently? And are there any other games on your list of shame? Maybe I have a few more I should visit and play for the first time as well. Either way, let me know in the comments or on Twitter @IrregularDave, and make sure you subscribe too. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.